Welcome to Power Fridays Live, where we turn the spotlight on individuals who are not just breaking new ground, but are literally redrawing the maps of what's possible. Tonight, we're diving into an extraordinary journey with Greg Lloyd, a man whose vision is as vast and as detailed, and whose mission has the power to reshape the socio-economic landscape for Black Americans across the nation. Greg Lloyd is the mastermind behind Project AREZ and the pioneering force at Tritain Enterprises and Industries. Where he's stepping up to the microphone with us tonight to share his blueprint for a parallel economy that promises not just growth, but a seismic shift towards equity and empowerment. With an ambitious plan to build 14 million affordable homes over 14 years using state of the art construction technology, Greg is not just talking about change, he's laying the foundations for it. But Project AREZ is more than a housing initiative. It's a comprehensive strategy aimed at creating a self sustaining economic system designed to elevate communities and combat the threat of a permanent underclass. Through innovative approaches to real estate, business services, banking, insurance, and manufacturing, Greg's vision encompasses a radical restructuring of economic power dynamics. In today's conversations, we'll peel back the layers of Greg's strategy, exploring the inspiration, the challenges, and the immense potential of Project Ares. We'll delve into what drives a man to undertake such an ambitious project, the hurdles he's faced along the way, and the impact he envisions for the future of Black Americans and beyond. So brace yourself for an enlightening, inspiring, and undoubtedly thought provoking dialogue. Greg Lloyd is not just a guest on our show today, but he's a visionary, inviting us all to reimagine the fabric of our society. Welcome to A Future in the Making right here on Power Fridays Live. Good evening, Greg. Good evening, Yolanda. How are you this evening?
Good evening.
I'm
Thank
doing
you so
just
much for being here.
Well, I am indeed excited. I have braced myself. I think I'm ready. So, Gregory Lloyd, thank you for being here. You are indeed intriguing to say the least. But I just want to jump right in, and I always like to go to the beginning of things. The
okay.
creation. So, I absolutely want you to talk to us about the name Project Ares. Where did that come from? And then talk about what motivated you, what motivated the creation of this initiative, this endeavor.
Actually, in 1986, I did a private placement to open up my first corporation. And in the process of doing that, uh, we came across a situation where we was going to, with Bishop College, and we was doing an annual fundraising situation for it. So what I decided to, and I thought would be wiser, was that we create some form of permanent endowment for it, but you wouldn't have this annual big program for money. So while I was doing that, I realized that there were a lot more things that was going on within Black community. This is 1986, by the way.
Hmm.
And I designed a project called Genesis 2. And in the Genesis 2 design, I was trying to see how I could actually create a parallel economy. Now, when I was working on that and creating a parallel economy, you got to understand in 86, investment strategies were different. We had junk bond offers, things of that nature. And so, in order to do that, I had to go around different other projects, support this project with that, acquire the airline in the Bahamas to leverage it. And anyway, to make a long story short, the project was supposed to be doing a bond offering at that time for something like $65 million. Uh, then everybody went to prison. So
Hmm.
well, Michael Milken was making $40 million base salary and then $200 million in bonuses. And he's the one had Drexel Burnham. So if you look up Drexel Burnham, then you'll see what he was doing back then. And he gave us a letter of intent for $65 million for the design that we had did. And so the stock market crashed. A lot of high execs went to jail for doing things they weren't supposed to do. Yeah, Button went out of business. Merrill Lynch got shot up. It was a lot of things that went on during Black Monday. All of our business situations at that point was tied into the market, and we took massive hits. We lost major contracts with Oppenheimer, Moore and Slade. Those contracts was upwards of $150 million, and I was just 24 years old at the time.
Wow.
So I didn't have the proper mentors to help me navigate through that. Now, fast forward to now, how we came with the situation that started over was that market situations allow for it to change again. Unlike 1987, when we had bond market situations, we had different changes in technologies. A lot of people were looking at AI, but there was massive construction technology changes too. So we formed Project AREZ. AREZ was formed because man knows it's going to sound kind of strange, but we believe in the docile or the timid or the really, really nice primitive. And we believe that everyone has a right to live their lives fair and free and happy. But the fact of the matter is that there was war before there was civilization.
Hmm.
The only real right man has, as messed up as it sounds, is the right to conquest. And the only way you can deny him that is through force of arms or some other means in order to protect the assets that you have. Other than that, it's going to be taken. Now, most of the time, we look at a lot of things that happen with conquest. We forget that there's three methods of conquest. The first method of conquest, of course, is war, but that's hard to maintain. If you were to look back in history and look at the British Empire, as you say, the sun doesn't set on the British Empire, but maintaining that empire was very difficult. And you can see what they left them to at this point. So the next one was religion. You can also see that tracing back to England when King Henry wanted to get a divorce and they wanted to come away from the Catholic Church and do the Protestant start burning a bunch of people and everything. That worked so long as you got the people's mind, but they normally raise up against you, then kill everybody, and then you start over again. The other one was the way the conquistadors did it. True, they went in and killed everybody, but it was a form of economic conquest. That is the form of conquest that we still have a right to. And that is what I'm speaking of right now. That's what the reason for the Project AREZ for economic conquest. And I'm gonna let you ask another question before I keep going.
Oh, you know what? That's deep. Like my shoulders are up towards my ears because I'm on the edge of my seat right now. And as you started breaking down things that were happening in the country and that at that time,
Mhm.
as soon as you started speaking, I started going back to what was going on. You were way ahead of your time, 24 years old, and just the mindset and the audacity to leap and take these steps and to reimagine society.
It was a problem. We had a deal with the Onassis shipping yard, and we were going to transfer. They wanted to get some good CD rates, but London was off the LIBOR rate was better, so we wanted to transfer the money to London. Anyway, this was one mistake I had. I had the bright idea of $40 million. It's not going to hurt to sit in my account for a few days. So I made arrangements for that. And then every bank in Memphis, the president of First Tennessee Bank flew down. Now, the other side of that was that we were different. All the Black Merchants Association, they had metal desks. They had basic little storefronts. Tritain wasn't like that. You stepped off the elevator, we had the whole east wing of a building. And you got to understand, I was young at that time, so I was stupid. So when you stepped off, you came through the double doors. The light fixture was encased in oak. The conference room was a glass wall with level or blinds that we ordered. The conference table was so large, we had to build it inside the conference room. The boards, a lot of people used boards back then. That was also closed and encased in oak. Even the wallpaper was made out of cloth with oak rinder. And so the first thing that the president of First Tennessee said to me was, he said, "You dealing drugs?" These white boys were straightforward. Okay, it was three of them. They came in. We all well dressed, and
Absolutely.
I had a rule that you can leave your desk without your jacket on. So we were suited all the time,
All
and
right.
we would purposely go into mayor's meetings late. I had about 12 guys, and we'll go in late, and we'll make a that we look good going in late.
Come
And
on now.
yeah, so
Come on.
so we were getting a lot of attention, but when First Tennessee had that problem, they then contacted all the other banks. And so we were no longer allowed to have bank accounts inside of Tennessee. Union
Mm.
planners, I'm calling all these motherfuckers out. Union planners, all of them kicked us out.
Mm.
And so we ended up going to Mississippi. Just and South Haven is real close to Memphis anyway. We ended up going to Mississippi to open up a bank account because they would not allow us to have a bank account. It also started damaging my ability to do my IPOs because we wrote initial public offerings. Again, I was 24 years old and I raised my first $100,000 in 1986. And
Wow.
so with us doing that, we ended up getting into a lot of deals. So our primary thing was just designing. So we designed natural gas transfers. We was into hydroponics way back when, and that's the other problem that we had. I was too ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
We had
Mm.
a possibility for a Department of Defense contract. So that was with El Salvador. They had all that stuff going on in El Salvador at the time, and we got some memo where it's that hydroponic tomatoes lasted much longer than regular tomatoes. And you won't believe this, but tomatoes
Mm.
are a delicacy in Russia. Of course, we can't trade with Russia,
Right.
but we can trade with El Salvador, who can trade with Chile, who can trade with Russia. And we made it known that we wanted beluga caviar for our tomatoes.
Whoa.
Wow.
Anyway, FBI got pissed.
I was going to ask you when the FBI stepped in on this.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
got pissed and said, Greg, you can't do that. I said, okay, we won't do that. So
Well,
we was in a bunch of stuff. We was in a bunch of stuff.
Mm.
wow. Well, Greg, sounds like you're proposing a parallel economy with your ideas and with Project Aries, and which is no small feat. How do you like envision the challenging and transforming the current socioeconomic systems in place?
Currently, right now, we have, and it, like I said, this will take a bunch of different interviews, but currently, the things that Black Americans are hearing are not true about them. One of the things that Black Americans always hear about is that you don't spend your money with other blacks. That your money stays inside the Black communities for 6 hours. That only 2% of your money goes in there. You got scholars like Claude Anderson that did Powernomics that'll tell you everybody got 100% of their money, and then we spend 98% of our money with them. So every other foreign group got 198%, and we got 2%. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, and I don't know what you. I'm monitoring my speech, and Janelle can tell you that. I'm monitoring my speech because I don't know what your audience base are, but most of that is just some BS. Okay, none of that's true. I mean, absolutely none of it is true. All this about the Asians do business with Asians, and listen, folks, y'all can't listen to that. The math right there, if you were to just simply look at what are the receipts for Black businesses, tell you it's $217 billion. All right, you know that 90% of that comes from Black people because they aim at Black people. So the point that I'm trying to make is that when we do the whole situation, blacks support Black businesses at a higher rate than any other ethnic group that there is. You just got to stop listening to the things that people say. By me not listening to what people say, in order to develop a parallel economy, I could not listen to the way that they wanted to do it. Separation is just it's far fetched. Mathematically, if blacks wanted to separate and have their own nation, it'll cost us $7.5 trillion to do that. It costs us almost
Wow.
$2 trillion in order to keep it up. Right now, we produce from our labor, and that's another thing people tell you. We got $1.8 trillion, and we got that's listen. That's NNDI, net national disposable income, ain't got nothing to do with GDP.
Mm.
If I wanted to tell you how powerful you was in GDP, based on your salaries and wages, it's a 2.5 ratio, meaning that based on what we do, we contribute $2.5 trillion to our current economy. But we're not our own nation. And even if we were, we can only look at what our businesses produce, which is 217 billion. That does not make us number 7 or number 8. It makes us like number 53. We 3 steps above a third world country. You don't want to do that. So everything that we've taught, everything that in order to fix this situation, You've been told about unity, you've been told about separation, and then the next thing you're gonna say, we need government grants, government loans, government subsidies, reparations. We need some movie star to support us and things of that nature. Or we need a nonprofit. And I'm not knocking folks with nonprofits. I don't fool with nonprofits except for in my net for my own non-operating nonprofit inside of my corporate structure. That's it. And the reason why I don't do that is that, let's say that I got this great idea and I get people start donating from. They say, Greg, you was at the strip club. Well, Greg probably was at the strip club. You use some of the nonprofit money. I think so. I may mix the dollar. I don't want to explain where I go, what I do. I don't want to be in a position where it's that all of a sudden we have a person over here say, Greg Data. I'm not running for any political office. I'm not going to get there. Okay? People say, we got pictures. I said, what pictures you got? You ain't got them out there looking in this phone right here. Tell some pictures. So I don't want to be in that position. So what I'm saying is, everything that you know about economics, everything that you know about construction, and I'm going to give you something entirely different.
Come on.
Nothing about what you already believe that it is. First of all, in order to do a economic design, and let me step back for a second. No, I'm gonna get to the for the housing. In order to do an economic design, you have to first look at economics. John Hope Bryant is doing things with financial literacy. That 1MBB, 1 Million Black Businesses initiative that he got. Now, he believes that through financial literacy, that you're going to be able to run a better business and you're going to get better access to capital and you can possibly grow. The problem with that, and I'm not knocking financial literacy, we got 3.1 million Black businesses right now. Only 147,000 of them actually have employees. 167,000 employees. If John puts another million businesses inside of that, he has to look at the economic market that they participate in. There are 4 economic markets. Perfect competition, which is a large number of businesses competing against each other in competitive situations. The next one is going to be monolistic competition. That's when you have a large number of large firms that are competing against each other, but primarily in a similar field, similar products. This is where you get your Kellogg's from. This is where you get your General Mills from. This is where you get your Post from. These guys are able to control market pricing. That's why when you go look at cereal, it's all cost about the same thing. All right, the next one you have is what you call an oligopoly. Here you're going to have a small number of large firms that control everything. That you can look at with Sony, look at it with Nintendo, and then look at it with Microsoft. They control the gaming industry. That's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they control that. Look at the prices of their systems. It's all around about the same price. So the last one is a monopoly. That don't really need to be no explained, but you got your Google, you got your Amazon. There's certain things that are monopolized. None of those market structures will actually work for Blacks to get ahead. First of all, we already support our Black businesses. It's only 217 billion. Do we got the 1.8 trillion dollars? You got 300 plus billion dollars that's given to you from the government. They can't count that. Okay, we got another 300 billion dollars that we make hustling, that we don't pay no taxes on. They don't count it in the GDP, but they recognize that it's out there. So what you have to look at, if we go into business, and that's the same thing that Mr. Bryan is supposing, that you're going to take those million businesses, and those million businesses are not going to go in a monolistic situation because they're not serial companies. Even if they were, they wouldn't be able to compete. They're not going into gaming. So those 2 market structures are out, and they definitely not going into a monopoly. So they only have one market structure that has no entry barrier. And don't feel bad, everybody's in that market structure. We can't participate in that market structure. So the first thing we have to do is create another market structure. So I took what was going on with the monolithic competition, what was going on with the oligopoly, and what was going on with monopoly. And I redesigned it and created a brand new market construct called symmetrilistic marketing, or symmetrilistic market construct, or symmetrilistic competition. In a symmetrilistic competition, you have a large number of small businesses that work together as a collective. Now that doesn't mean group economics. See, all of that don't really work as well. Okay, so this is not group economics. I don't require unity. I require uniformity. Okay, nobody's unified. I don't even understand where that even came from. Nobody's unified. If everybody was unified, there would never been a civil war. If everybody was unified, I mean, look, nobody's unified. Okay. I mean, everybody getting what they're gonna get. Everybody say, well,
Yeah.
we
The root word of unified in uni is one.
right. See, I want uniformity, meaning that I got a large group that's getting paid. They ain't gonna do it for free. Got a large group that's working for a general cause. Now, the problem with that, well, they're not with that. The reason for that is that it's a much easier for me to put together a group of 100,000 than it is for a group of 48 million. And one of the things that you have to look at is this, even with the way we vote. Now, if you have people that's going black men that's going to vote Republican, they're kind of put on the outside of the way everybody else, everybody wants to vote. But it's not the way they want to vote. It's simply a mindset shift. I mean, I don't care who they vote for. That's another thing. Project AREZ has no relationships with other corporations other than our basic partnerships. No corporation influences on what we do. We ain't took no whole lot of money from nobody, so we ain't working with that. Two, we don't have any relationships with any nonprofit organizations, any religious organizations, or any political affiliations. We don't do none of that. You say, well, we need all that. No, you don't. You really don't. If you go through your day in, day out life and walking around and doing whatever you do, your president come on your mind. I don't think about the president unless he do something stupid. And it just throw right at me. Okay? So what I'm saying is that everything that you know about everything had to be erased. And nobody's willing to do that. And because they're not willing to do that, doesn't mean that John Hope isn't a brilliant man. It simply means that he's confined to what he knows. We are all ignorant to some particular subject. He's very smart when it comes to financial literacy, but he doesn't write policy. That's why he said, let me get this nonprofit and let me go over here and work with these million businesses. And if they become financially literate, because I see what's going on and people that got lower credit scores, I see he's on to something. But that's not economics. I can pull you as an individual, but I can't pull you as a collective. I have to do this as a collective because we are about to become a permanent underclass. And I don't think people really understand or accept that. So let me throw one major little number out there to you so you can understand that. I looked at what the word and I make my AI call me by name, and I give my AI a name, and because I had to do that because she gives me terrible information sometimes, and I get mad at her for knowing more than what she is, and she just faster. So we argue. Yes, I do argue with AI. But one of the things that me and the AI agreed on, I wanted to see what the actual murder rate was per 100,000 for different groups. Now you can say, what they got to do with anything? It's a mindset shift. So when I looked at it, AI spit out everybody, and then for whatever reason, went into a situation to tell me how bad it was for trans. So the first thing I asked, did I ask you that? No, but you want to tell me that's the word? I said, okay. So what are the death rates? Didn't mention. I said it's 1.6 million trans Americans, and 22 died. I said it's 1.68, and they said, yeah, you're right. And I said, why am I right when you should have given that information from the beginning? But the point that I'm trying to make, even with the AI and things that we got, everybody give you fake information. This is the true information. All right, and I'm done. I'm getting to a point. Asian women die at 0.5 per 100,000. Trans died at 1.68 per 100,000. Second lowest. White women die at 2. White men die at 4. Black women die at 4.5. And black men die at 32.6. Now, if I took the police and took everybody they shot, not just the unarmed, I'm talking about I'm shooting, even the one that's shooting back at them and started it. I'm counting all of them as black folks that the police shot. For black men, if I take in consideration everybody the police is shot, they dropped from 32.6 to 32. This is not a crisis for anybody. Now, what does this crisis mean? This crisis has a massive impact on our economic situation, and I have to correct that at the same time as correcting our economic situation. Now, a lot of people don't understand what that means. I mean, why stop at parity? The design that I'm doing allows blacks within 30 years, because in 30 years, okay, in 20 years, what's this, 24? Nope. In 30 years, two things are going to happen. Whites are going to become the largest minority. Okay, they will no longer be a majority. It'll be the largest minority. Once they lose their status, less than 10 years later, black collective household wealth is going to drop down to zero. You still have rich black people, but collectively, it dropped down to zero. So let me give you an idea about collective. Collectively, black businesses, all 3.1 million of them, make $29,000 a year, just over $29,000 a year, collectively. So collectively, we would be at a zero rate. Now, I don't. A lot of people don't understand what that means. It ain't nothing about just poverty. This hits everybody. Right now, with your children, you send them to a football game. You don't know if they're gonna get shot or not. You send them to a prom party. You don't know.
True.
You have a sweet 16 party. You don't know. Club, teen club, riding in the car. What I'm trying to tell you is that we no longer can protect our children. And we letting everybody tell us how to protect our children. But you can never listen to a person that got a nonprofit telling you how to do the right thing. All right? I ain't got no nonprofit. I'm not asking nobody to donate anything to me. Okay? I might be crazy, but at least I'm halfway honest. Okay? So
Well, it is a multifaceted approach, Greg.
yeah, well, the reason that it has to be multifaceted is that studying economics is a science. And if you're not looking at the science of it, that's where you just like mathematics. You're not looking at the science of it, you're losing out. Feelings are not facts. I'm not going to tongue wrestle with a person that's coming at me with emotion without the benefit of intellect. I mean, if you argue with a fool, you can't tell the difference. So that's the reason why I'm able to move so fast. You got it, boom. And the reason why I'm saying all this is this. If you start another economic structure, that's your first step. Then you only need a small amount of the population to begin what you need to begin. Now, you ask when you look at housing. Housing is only selected because real estate is the number one economic indicator. Banks have to have a product. It's not. I mean, housing is there for Mr. Hope. He's saying you need to buy your house. That's not happening because people still can't do it. See, when you don't look at the science of economics, you look at things like financial literacy. You look at discretionary income. You look at we spending too much money on this and spending too much. Listen, we need to keep spending money. This is what the problem is. Black people spend a considerable amount of money on rent. What would happen if there was a housing design, whereas that you move into the house, but it's not rent, but it's a corporate lease. It's a corporate lease that pays you dividends and creates a modified endowment contract along with it. Like, whoa, how is that possible? It's possible when you control your supply chain, you control your monetary policies, and you even control your money supply. It's possible because you did a design that concentrates on 4 of the top 6 economic indicators. Real
Is
estate.
this
Mhm.
is
Is
this
this what?
self-sustaining when you share with us what
Yes.
it attacks and just explain how?
Yes. Okay. One of the things is, and part of the design is that the design is not linear. We live in what was called a linear economy, and they've been trying to fight against that the whole time with the linear economies, which would means that we go and we acquire resources, use them, and then throw them away. We more so of a circular type economy. And that's what AREZ is designed, that all waste is recycled. I've learned that 24 years ago when I was doing something with the hydroponics. But anyway, the point is it's self-sustainable for the simple fact is that you don't stop the building. It's gonna cost about $7.5 trillion in order for us to build our own country and all that other goofy shit. It will in under this situation, yes, it's gonna take $2 trillion in order to get it done. But in 30 years, the net worth of the project is over $6 trillion. That means that the individuals that are participating in the project per household is ranging anywhere between $400,000 to $600,000. Now, the objective is it's sustainable because one of the things that we have in perfect competition, we have no entry barriers. Anybody can open up business anytime, jump right in the market. You can't do that with symmetric competition. We control that market. We control how many businesses are going to be in there. We control how many businesses that we work with, and we control everything associated with the business, the whole supply chain, everything. So the first design of it is to put people in directive positions, project managers, uh, facilitators, quality control, and procurement. By structuring the business in directive, the only thing that AI and technology does is make their job a little bit easier. It does not replace them. Now, the other part is that when you're looking at all of the jobs that it creates, based on this particular design, it can create upwards of 75 million direct, indirect, and induced jobs. It's not, we have to look at the multiplier effect of anything that you invest in. Or anything. What I mean by that is that when you go out and for every dollar that you make, black people make $2.5 worth of produce. The average is 2.7. You say, well, why black people make less? We don't work hard. Listen, this is the problem that black people will have. And it's one that they don't, people don't like to hear, but go to CDC and argue with them about it. Obesity creates absence of jobs. You add that along with a single mother that has children. Children get sick. It's not bad stuff. It's just children get sick. You miss work when your babies get sick. I had babies. I miss work. I had grandbabies. I miss work. I had great grandbabies. I miss work. Okay, so you do that and I was a single parent. So being a single parent, I know that you miss certain things when you're a single parent. That's why I got married. You miss certain things when you're a single parent. And so you add that along with obesity, our productivity actually goes down. White woman obesity is around about 30 or so percent, 32, 34%. Black men used to be number two with the lowest, with it being at 34, but we done bumped up to 38. White men are running about 36, and black women are running at 60%. So that's not a good situation for us. It's not healthy for us to be that big, and it impacts our work, and it also impacts our productivity. That's not saying that anybody's lazy or anything like that. You do want to use the factors that actually impact it, and those are the factors that I use. See, everything that we're doing, we don't require stick and mortar or whatever the case might be. These designs are designed for everybody that works with AREZ, works remotely. It's just about software and your computer situation. But again, this is not going, it's not going to work no matter how great it is unless you change the mindset. So one of the entry points coming into AREZ, and by the way, bound being project managers and things of that nature, their income is entirely different than somebody running a business. They have three streams of income. They have earned income, they have equity, and then they have cash flow. It's broke down in the project, but they have three streams of income. Bare minimum, they're gonna make $60,000 to $80,000 a year. They can make $60,000 to $200,000 a year just based on the number of projects, and that's the reason why you restrict to that first 100,000 with those. After that, it's going to be 300,000 more that's going to be working directly with us. We changed the technology with the construction, so we change everything else associated with that. Now, given that scenario, I still don't have a mindset. I mean, I have basic greed, but I don't have a mindset. So the first thing is that we have to recognize, and this is what black people need to recognize, and this is one of the things we really need to recognize. We are not immigrants. Okay, we keep comparing ourselves with other immigrant groups. We not immigrants, guys. We just not. And then the other thing is we're not Africans. Okay, you can hold on to whatever it is that you hold on, but the reality of it is you are American. I went to the mountains with a friend of mine. I really don't hang out with them because, but they cool. They just don't think a lot. So I don't talk no business with them. I just hang. I get some moonshine up in the mountains, and that's why I go for. And I'm sipping on my moonshine while they smoking their weed. Nah, once I can get a little bit, I can handle it. So one of them just said, you know, we ain't got nobody that we could turn to. I said, huh? Yeah, something happened to us, then we ain't got nobody. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, like, for instance, if you from Mexico, you got Mexicans. You got Mexicans. Mexico can have to help the Mexican people. You got China helping the Chinese people. They have somebody. I'm like, dude, they left. They ain't got nobody to go back to. They left. Ain't nobody come over here to save them for anything. I said, plus, who you think Brittany Garner called? I mean, she's an American. Dude, you're an American. Black people are so disconnected from the fact that they're Americans. It is ridiculous. And because a person is disconnected from that, that's one of the first entry barriers. You have to put your nationality before your race. Because it's a mindset change. They don't mean go out there and start swinging a flag everywhere and saying, I ain't black no more. And that's not what it's saying. What I'm saying is that you have opportunity based on your nationality. If you were to look at Black America, that goes along with the creed of America, and that's another thing you got to understand. People come over here. If you are coming over here from China, I guarantee you there's not a single neo-Nazi group over there. There's not a single Ku Klux Klan group over there. But you coming over here to fool with this. Ain't no black gangs over there. You got your Asian gang, but you got the Mexican gangs, you got the black gang, you got all that. But yet you'll come here and then you will have your situation going on with your culture. But guess what happens with your culture? Your culture matches up with the norms and values that the American creed is. I ain't telling you to get all patriotic and all that. I just want you to think for a moment. What do all the other cultures and all the other ethnic groups have in common? They do things that we say will actually work for you. They do things like education. They do things like marriage. They do things like, working hard. They have those situations. When we look at any black group that comes over here, whether they African, whether they West Indies, guess what? They doing the same thing. True, we are getting the cream of the crop when they come over here, but they do the same thing. All I'm saying is that if you look at Black American, two married couples, educated, you will look and see that something's remarkable. They'll tell you that the average Black household has $250,000 less wealth than the average white household. But when you look at those households, they have $250,000 more wealth than whites that are single parent whites. If we do just looking at it, and say, okay, I'm gonna put my nationality first. I'm gonna pretend that I'm an American. Okay, I'm just gonna act like I'm American. It's a mind shift, set shift, and this is where the ugly part comes in for the ladies. The men are having the greatest problem. If I don't resolve the problem that's going on with the men, we don't get nowhere. So Project AREZ, and I tell y'all, because y'all some smart ladies, we do have a Project Athena. And for the record, Athena was more badass than Aries, and Athena was a female. We do have a second project for it. Initially, I have to create a situation for the men, and it's called the Black Sun Dynasty. I want men to form honorable houses, and those houses are formed through their corporation. It's going to have their own creed, they're going to have their own coat of arms, and they're going to have their own banners associated with it, and their own crest. I want people to have a mindset of being honorary and create their own royalty. We run around here always hollering about we kings and all that other goofy shit, but we can't possibly all be kings because that was a ratio of 1 to 200,000 for the most part. But we with the big kingdoms, and it's about 1 in 1,000 when you go into some of the villages. But all those could have been kings. Okay, that's it. But if you want to be king, you need to do king things. And one of the things that you can do first is form your honorable house, form your crest, and we got rules and regulations how you have to participate. And that's the same rules and regulations most corporations have. Now, IBM used to have a dress code, and they had the same rule that I had about leaving your desk without your jacket. It was just the way they presented themselves. When you look at the Muslims, many of them have a good dress code. They wear bow ties, and part of my dress code is no bow ties, but they wear bow ties, and they are look very, very good in uniform. And the uniformity is something that we have to do. And then the next part of it is the Alfarian Empire. Now, Alfarian Empire controls AREZ. It is where your parallel economy comes. Now, the parallel economy is not a separate economy. It works in tandem and right alongside the other economy. It's just that inside of that economy, the way it stands right now, we cannot grow. We have to run parallel. And it's not just for black. 14 million households, trust me, anybody, we ain't got but 18. And we are the only group that is not projected to grow in the next 30 years. Everybody else gonna be having babies and doing that. We ain't expect. We may go from 14 to 15%, but that's it. Everybody else gonna make major jumps by the time whites become permanent.
Well,
Permanent.
you are quite the historian there, Greg, and you have your statistics down pat. I must say, for that learner, for the intellectual, definitely, it's a lot of information you're throwing at us and you're sharing with us. And if
Well,
you don't mind,
Janelle,
go
it's
ahead.
not just a lot of information. I gotta say, anytime somebody calls you by your first and last name, Gregory Lloyd, you're a bad motorcycle. All right. And as you were speaking, I just kept thinking of the song from back in the day, "What you see is what you get." Um,
Yeah.
but if when you spoke about economic stagnation,
Mhm.
we often hear the term middle class, upper class. What do you think that
Mhm.
really has done for us as a people? Because when we talk about middle class and upper class, I think it's something that we just tend to throw around, and I think it puts us at a disadvantage. Um, just how does that tie in to economic stagnation? People thinking that they're upper class, and what does that mean?
Well, one of the things that you can look at a numeric situation as upper class, and it just depends on. Okay, one time I wanted to be a 1%, meaning that I had to earn a certain amount of money in a certain year. Okay, I reached that in Georgia in 2013. Made 360 some $1,000, so it made me a 1%er. But it didn't do nothing for me in New York. So what I'm saying is that we put class on, then we put a range in there based on income in order to do it. But the problem is that many people that making large amounts of money still live paycheck to paycheck based on their economic situation. One of the things that I was doing when I said affordable housing, that we're 12 million shortage in affordable housing. We're not going to catch up. The reason for that is that blacks spend more of their disposable income on housing than any other group. We just can't get in that house. That's why I wanted to shift that in order for you can still spend the same money. People say, well, we need to save some money. Listen, we don't. When we take in consideration the fact that we stop spending money, we will have the money that we waste, that we think we waste that money in the service industry. That service industry is very much overrepresented by blacks. We created 1.25 million jobs in it just for being spending too much. Overall, by the time we get through spending everything, we support 5.1 million jobs. People, we can't stop spending. We stop spending, we ain't got no. Money builds up for us individual. That's what I meant by financial literacy. You can have individual gains, but as a collective, if it drops in the toilet, you're going to pay for it. There's no need in being rich and you can't go outside. And then at that particular point, it's just like blacks treat the police. When a policeman kills an unarmed person, if you put 40,000 policemen inside of a room, one of them will shoot an unarmed black person. The other 39,999 got to get it. That's just where it is. They got to get it. What do you think happens when a black person does something? Right now, 530 some people, white people get killed by blacks. White people kill about 235 black people a year. Blacks kill about about 530. So listen, we win in that little battle. Okay. The point that I'm trying to make is that they're starting to see that because some of these killings that When Ahmaud Arbery got killed, the whole world knew about it. But there were two killings that never even got up there. One black dude down in not Chattanooga, Brunswick, shot a wait about a year old in a stroller because he was robbing his mom. Shot the baby in the face. Then his aunt covered it up. Another guy was a neighbor, had been eating at the house, went and kidnapped the baby out the window and killed that baby. Now that was doing the same thing. Two white babies got killed by adults, got no press time. And see, what I'm trying to say is that it's gonna come a time where that shit gonna get as much press as a motherfucker shooting, as much press as a guy shooting at the police when he's
Keep
surrounded.
it real. Keep it real.
Yeah. My reel is really real. So, but it's gonna get as much press as that. And so when it start getting pressed like that, they're going to be able to isolate us. And even the ones of us that are educated, even the ones of us that ain't with it, we're going to suffer the same way because they're just going to be afraid. And then the thing is that your vote is being thinned out all the time. Black men and black women don't even vote the same. When you talk about supporting Trump, you're going to see way more black men than black women that supporting that situation. And then partnerships with everybody. We constant partnership with black and brown. I don't use no black, brown, nothing. I'm straight black folks. And I'm damn sure not Umar Johnson. But what I'm saying is that they numbers don't match ours.
Well, Greg, with that being said, in pushing forward a project of this scale, and that you're very, determined, you're bound to face resistance. What are some of the biggest hurdles that you've encountered, and how have you navigated them?
Some of the biggest hurdles I've encountered is challenging what I'm saying and then going back to the victim situation. And somebody once asked me, it was a group asked me, where did I get my source from? I couldn't remember, but D'Angelo keeps up with all the sources. I said, well, I came out, I go back. They started laughing. And I said, okay, let's just keep this real. I said, this is what I want to do. There's 6 of y'all now. I want each one of you to go get somebody else smart as you possibly think they are. And it's going to be 12 of you all. And I said, and y'all going to go against me. And I said, I know that's unfair because you still going to need some help. And then I crushed them. I don't take no prisoners. When I come across something, I'm going to listen to what you say. I'm going to take your data and then I'm going to show you. Because see, emotions are not facts. Most people that challenge me are challenging me based on emotional situation. Everybody want to tell you what the white man does and they got a single with that. Okay, and most of them don't. Most of them don't. I can't tell you what a group of people do that I have no relationship with. Okay, I just can't. I can't guide you on what the next person actually thinks. What I can do is look at certain data situations and find out from that data points whether or not. And I use mathematical logic and I do settled science. I'm messed up. Okay, with my settled science. Science is not settled until you get a quorum. And so if you don't have a quorum in a vote, then I'm still going with the same science. And not a quorum. You have to have God, what's the name of the term? With doctors is not a quorum, it's I think it's consensus. A consensus which requires 90% or better. So I had somebody challenge me once on a male situation. And then they said, are they heterosexual males that you're trying to get for this first set? I said, set the houses, yes, because I'm trying to do that, but I don't have nothing against gay males. They said, well, how do you look at that? Then if you don't have anything against gays, and then how does that work with you from a religious standpoint of view? First of all, I try to maintain not getting into other folks' religious beliefs. I got my beliefs, me and God got our thing worked out, and that's about it. But one of the things that I do when I say settle science and deal with consensus, I just go back to the 1973 vote that said that gays were not that was not a mental illness anymore. And I said, okay, what was the vote? And the vote was somewhere in the neighborhood of 55 to 35. It had some abstentions and stuff like that. And I said, okay, that's not a super majority. And if it's not a super majority, it's definitely not a consensus. A consensus requires 90+%. And until that consensus gets to 90%, I can perfectly envelop them from a religious standpoint of view because I'm supposed to support mentally ill people. People don't like to hear that, but hey, if you're gay, I'm cool with you, regardless of the reason I'm cool with you. People don't like to hear that. So,
Gregory, I
mhm.
you mentioned black men, you mentioned black children, you mentioned black women. Just, drop a little science on us. I just want your take. When we look at black men and black women, we're talking about affordable housing. We have a lot of black women out there. Everyone's leveling up, right? We're reaching new heights. We're doing different things on an economic level that may not have been accomplished before. How does that impact that relationship of black men and black women? Sometimes you hear people say, in order for us to build, we have to build together. What's your thought around that?
That's shipped and sailed.
No.
That's shipped and sailed. Okay. And I'm going to tell you the reason why the shipped and sailed. If we were to look at 1968, and at the time Martin Luther King died in 1968, and that was the end of the civil rights era. 5 years later, we got the Roe versus Wade situation. We also had the first organization of black feminists to come up. Now, this ain't no knock to women. I'm just giving you a history lesson. So when you had those two things that occurred, women started getting independent. 7 years later, we started dealing with crack. This was the first time that women used drugs at the same rate that men did. Now you got a whole lot of women that, community babies, things of that nature because of the drug, whatever the case might be. But when women tried to bounce back, they ended up having children. A lot of black men got killed during that particular time. Had the whole crime bill. They ain't throw everybody in jail, but it threw enough to start creating a little quorum of situation. You're able to get your abortions when you want to. You're able to also say that, I'm gonna destroy the patriarchy. That was very, very, I want a good move, but it happened. When you're looking at destroying the patriarchy, what happens is that the black man had fought against that patriarchy the whole time. He had died. And this is a statistic that a lot of people don't know. During the civil rights movement, there were 23 black men that got killed that were directly associated with the civil rights movement. You got other people that got killed, but not just with civil rights workers. There was 13 white men that got killed. There was one white woman that got killed, and there was no black women. Now, that's not a knock at black women. I'm just saying you're gonna go after patriarchy, fix that the brothers that's dying for it, we need to support them. And I'm not saying that women decided not to support them. It's just a wave that happened. And once that wave happened, guess what? The children that were coming up were being raised based on certain thought patterns with men. A lot of people will turn around and tell you it's the welfare system. Okay, how many people we got in here? I'll tell you the truth. Based on being a welfare system, and that women didn't feel that they need a man. I've been with my share of women, lots of them, and I've been with women that were poor. I ain't met one that didn't want a man. I just didn't. I'm gonna have another baby. That's a myth. The thing is that if you raise a man a certain way, he's gonna act a certain way. We talking about emotional situations that they have. We talking about a lot of people will tell you things that they read in the book. I can tell you for real. Now, every killer I know, I'll be perfectly honest with you, got some emotional situations going on, and many of them didn't have a solid situation from a male perspective. Now, you got these men that's going out and impregnating women, and they putting the women in the same situation. 2 or 3 generations of that, they ain't no turn around from that. That's done.
And and so your project takes that on firsthand with the innovation that you have in place with the project AREZ
it'll
and
give
the
it'll give men a
technology.
chance to it'll see. In order for this, black women die at 4.5. It's too many men killing them, and I think that people think that if you cut women out of situation, it's the only way I can save their lives. Is if I can get enough men to create the honorable houses and things of that nature, then it'll change the philosophies on how we look at things. Even if you don't have a man in the household, it'll simply change the way we view things. Things that I'm not gonna do this because that ain't manly. That's not what's happening right now. You got men that have elevated from slapping a woman or beating on a woman to shooting. That ain't no man stuff. Who shoots women? Now, I ain't for beating them with your fists either, but what I'm saying is that you went straight past that. That's emotional. And it's what we call testosterone, because it's not testosterone. That we call it testosterone because there's testosterone infused with bitch. And that's what they are. They killing women. They come by and they shoot up the house. They shoot in there, the baby's being, they do all of that. Women will come over there and tear the car up, throw some bleach on your clothes, want to fight. These jokes at another level. And what I'm saying is that they are not corralled. If you were to do a comparison to the number of black men that are in the military during the Afghan war, this is one good statistic. It's 217,000. Black men still overrepresent in the armed forces. 17% of the armed forces are black men. That's 217,000. Out of that 217,000, 400 died during that 20-year period. Now, we go back and we look in the street. Instead of fighting for your country, you're going to fight for your hood. During that same period of time, there's about 300,000 black gang members. They represent 35% of all gangs. And 36,000 of them got killed during that period of time. 17,000 more went to prison for those killings. They didn't make no money. They made a certain amount of money for the undertaker. They left no extra money for the family. And they averaged $20,000 a year. Combat soldier averages much more than that, but his benefits and everything, you're right around $90,000 to $100,000 a year. So for $20,000 a year, you're gonna go out there. You got a 100 times greater chance of being killed in the street for something you don't own, but you prefer that. And that's what I meant by putting your nation, your nationality before your race. Because when you look at situations where blacks are putting switches on guns to make them shoot, they ain't putting no switches on no guns to shoot at no police. That's for other black people. I got to turn my pistol into a machine gun, and I don't even go to the shooting range.
So does Project AREZ help solve this problem that you speak of?
Project AREZ plans to solve these problems, first starting off with the American Black, then with the Black Sun Dynasty, and then with the Alfarian Empire. The thing is that if you're going to build a nation of strength, then you need to build that nation based on the foundation of something. You can't get everybody to convert over. People going to tell you, well, we don't get reparations, we ain't got nothing. You ain't getting reparations. Even if, okay, first of all, it's against the law. A lot of people ain't tell you that. It's not supposed to make it out of Congress because there's a law that's, one of the reasons why everybody say black and brown. You know, the reason for that is that you can't have a racially motivated legislation. Strictly for black people. That's just not happening. Okay? They thought when they threw white women in as a minority, which is bullshit, but they thought when they threw white women as a minority, they was going to crush a lot of the things that was in the Civil Rights Act, but it didn't. They just let that go on, fly on through. So if a person is going to give you reparations, then they're going to give you reparations based on what? Even if it passed the Senate, which it ain't, but let's say it did, and let's say the president signed it off, it ain't going to get through the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court got a certain 3 standard rules that you have to go by in order for that to get there, and that's not going to make it. They screwed the standards, will not allow it to go through. But let's say, you know, you keep that dream alive, and I can't work with you. I'm not working towards that. The other thing is that people got misunderstand that you could just print money. Well, everybody see how that shit worked out for us. Look at the grocery store. Feel like you're getting robbed at that moment. That's how that
Well,
works out. You can't
well, you
print
know,
money.
well, Greg, thank you for sharing that because sustainability and scalability was my next point I was going to make, and they're critical for any project's long-term success. And so, as we come to a close, what mechanisms have you put in place to ensure Project ARES can grow and sustain its impact over time?
One of the things that Project Aries has put in place in order to grow and maintain its impact over time is that we know for a fact that housing is always going to be there. We know that real estate is going to be an economic indicator. We've already selected 4 of the top 6 in order to do it. So we could, government is one of them, so we don't participate with that. So the other thing, and medical, we don't participate with that. So that rounds off your top six. So the thing is that because we believe that it's scalable because of technology. Typically, technology is deflationary and creates causes problems with jobs. But in order to scale this situation, we embrace it. There are technologies for construction we just don't use. We so far behind Europe, it's ridiculous, but we just don't use it. So one of the things is that by us not being affiliated with a political party also allows us for scalability. One of the things that Black folks need to understand, you should have never joined a particular party. In 1965, we had the greatest power in the world. We should have never just, well, we should have voted for Johnson, but we should have went over there to Nixon and said, what you got for us, Nixon? Because Humphrey ain't going to get it. We got to be a little bit more visual when we make decisions. But the scalability of it is the simple fact is that we're not running out of people. And we've been ran out of house. And the thing is that in order to maintain this, it would not be scalable if I just build houses and let anybody in there. There's entry barriers for that too. It wouldn't be scalable if I just made an affordable house. Let Pookie and Ray don't move in because Pookie and Ray gonna destroy that house the same way they destroyed everything in the hood. There are rules, regulations that we have associated with this. That's the reason. And we changed the credit scoring system too. We changed everything.
That's changing the game. I would love to have a part two of a conversation with you because this is far from over. So I'm quite sure, Janelle, we're going to have him back. This was, I have to let a lot of this marinate over the next few days because this was definitely a deep conversation, a lot of information sharing, and a lot of enlightenment that supports. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry for giving you information overload, but
It's
it's all this
okay.
stuff will be broken down. I mean, this got a
But
lot of data associated with it.
I did want to ask you something. You were young when you came in with this mentality. Where did you
Mhm.
get that level of courage and heart to basically kick the doors in and do it differently? Where did that come from? School can't give you that.
When it was an event. When I was 15, I was playing college level basketball, and one day a guy came off the streets about to hit my mom in the car. She was in the car. And because I'm an athlete, I figured I was fast enough to warn her and get out the way. And I wasn't. And so I was trapped in the fire. And I remember screaming to my mom twice, not for her to come get me. I just wanted to make sure she was still alive. And when she didn't, I closed my eyes and said, God, if my mom did, I want to die too. Well, all of a sudden I hear all these blood curdling screams, and I'm like, man, let me get this white woman to shut up. When mom, mom got hit with the white stick from way back, so she came out looking white. So we always just call white folks. And so I said, let me get out of this. And I got out of the fire, and I asked her, was I burned in the face? And she said, no, baby. Then I touched my pride and said, oh, I'm glad I wore jeans today. And then she passed out, and I passed out. Well, the thing was that, and I'm gonna fast forward through all the harsh situation, but the thing was one day that my son, when we were moving, my baby was hitting me in the head. That's before car seats and everything. He ain't talking English, and Chris the interpreter. So when I turned around and said, "What about the interpreter?" Chris fell out the car, but he holding on like it's a GI Joe game. Scared the shit out of me. I jump up, dive out the car, scoop him up, and then my wife was able to hit the brakes on the car, but they mother. And anyway, I'm holding him, and he said, "Dad, I ain't even crying." I said, "Yeah, baby, I know. That's when it hit. And what it was that everything in my burns was going to prevent me from sports and everything. I can have nothing but my brain. But what hit me was I was the lucky one when I got burned. I couldn't imagine what my mother had to look at because she lost 3 sons before I was born. So I was a much loved child. None of them ever got out of infancy. And I had 2 brothers after me. For her to watch me being burned alive is something that I can't imagine. And I remember when she saw me in the hospital, they told me later that she fainted. But when she came up there, she said, "Hey, baby." And I'm bandaged from head to toe. I'm burned over 76% of my body. Legs broken, arms. I mean, I was messed up. And from that, um, the lower part of my anatomy still worked because when I got out of the hospital, I got Audrey pregnant. So I had a baby at 17 and I couldn't play sports anymore. So I had to be successful. I just had to be. And every time I turned around, there was sporting situations occurring that I knew I was better than these guys. I knew that, even the guys that was in college that was playing, those guys all got picked after me. So I just turned everything into business. I felt like I lost and I felt like I was going to be successful at that. And I said, I'm going to be successful at this. And so I spent all my waking time going to libraries, doing law library, doing everything I possibly could at a very young, because I was a parent at 17. And while I was in college, and then there was a lot of things that was going on. Like they didn't have food stamps and stuff like that for me then. So, in order for me to well, in order for Audrey and Chris to eat, I couldn't eat. So I went to school from 7 in the morning to 5 in the evening. And little Debbie had the little wafer bars, and I would eat one half for breakfast and one half for lunch. And I was at school from 7 to 5. I couldn't afford to drive to school, so I would ride the bus. And it used to take me 2.5 hours to ride the bus, but I couldn't afford to drive even though I had a car. So I made like massive sacrifices. I would miss the president's list and hit the dean's list. And I used to get pissed because, but that was a lot, and I had to get out of school quick. So I was 19 when I got my first degree. And so I never knew anything except for driving. Then I ran into some black successful men making over $100,000 a year working for A.L. Williams. It's Primerica now. And I started learning about mutual funds, but it was too slow for me. I wanted stocks. I wanted bonds. So I started teaching myself. And at that time, you had to go to the library. And after a while, when I got my strength all the way up and everything, I just got power fucking hungry. I don't know. I just wanted to, but I wanted to change the world from what it was. It just was not a world that needed to be because I saw so much when I was burned. I saw the strength. I couldn't, I cried. Don't get me wrong, because those dressing changes were nothing like what Richard Pryor told you. That was way worse than that. But I was surrounded by white kids. As the black, I couldn't cry all the time. I mean, I had to represent. And so I'm sitting there representing, but I'm the only one with 76% burns. Everybody else came up there like they were dead. But I had to represent. So I have no choices other than to fully always represent. And so I needed to do something that was great. And that's what I wrote.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I told you you were a bad motorcycle.
And I had cancer twice. I always tell people I've been burned. I had colon cancer. I had lung cancer. When I got burned, I had a less than 1% chance of survival. When I got colon cancer, I had less than 5%. When I had lung cancer, I had 15. I said the good part about all this is constantly going up. So that's the way I looked at it. I don't look at no negative stuff. No, I mean I just don't.
Yes. Well,
But
thank you. Thank you
okay.
so much, Greg. It's been an amazing conversation, and you've been on an amazing journey. And we're just grateful, that God says, "Hey, you are here for a purpose, and to exude with your power, to share with others." And as we all say, on Power Fridays Live each and every Friday night, we're here. Please like and subscribe, share with a friend, share the video, down below, and be, do, and have the greatness that you desire, because the greatness is in you. Thank you so much. Take care and be blessed. Have a great weekend, everyone. Good night.
You too. Good night.
Thank you.
Introducing Money Just Flew Out the Window by Janelle Pulley. Get your copy of the book. Money Just Flew Out the Window. It shows you how to manage and build family wealth. Discover how to protect your family and your future. How to build a proper financial foundation. Discover reasons why you have been financially unstable. Why financial freedom is important. How to key into the financial liberty your fellow men who have this knowledge are enjoying. Discover ways to retain the freedom regardless of your income. Support the family without stress. And lots more. Get your copy of Money Just Flew Out the Window now.
Price of freedom can never be bought. Life experience is how it's taught. Price of freedom can never be bought. Life experience is how it's taught. Freedom is too expensive for anyone to buy, and yet there are many who always try.